Reporter. What do you think about Dunn becoming the NBA's current Lord of the Rings? James. I have never played for a super team. Kobe. I am a better player, he is a better teammate. O'Neal. My grandmother and Dunn can also win championships by playing basketball together. Ross. Health wins the championship, Dunn is Wolverine. Restart the millennium and start with a basketball achievement system. In order to make a fortune in the NBA, Dunn grabbed Cameron Anthony's thigh and won the NCAA championship, earning the Jason Terry template. Participating in the 2003 draft, I originally wanted to ride the Pistons' fast train, win an NBA championship, and continue to improve my strength. I don't want to, but I was intercepted by the Lakers halfway, so I had to try my best to gnaw on the old Lakers F4 keywords of the novel. Health basketball, starting from the F4 of the old Lakers without pop-ups, health basketball, starting from the F4 of the old Lakers, download the complete text, health basketball, starting from the F4 of the old Lakers, read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. NCAA Finals, Brother Basketball. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 NCAA Finals, Brother Basketball on April 7, 2003, the Superdome Sports Center in New Orleans. The NCAA Finals, an annual basketball event of national concern, is being held here in the United States. Compared to the highly commercialized NBA, which resembles large-scale variety shows. NCAA has no star privileges, no referee control, and no fight for money. It is simply the most authentic and pure collision between players, teams, and teams. It can be said that every NCAA game is a movie. Every basketball enthusiast can find their shadow while watching the game and find resonance in their soul. This is the purest and most passionate sports competition, as well as the most unforgettable and beautiful youth years for everyone. Of course, there are also reasons such as economic strength and alma mater complex. The vast majority of the economy in the United States is in the hands of elite individuals who have attended university. Elite individuals take pride in their alma mater, which is their best network and fame and fortune arena. And the lower-class people who rely solely on social welfare to support themselves do not have the money to subscribe to paid programs such as NBA and NCAA. Therefore, even during Michael Jordan's reign in the NBA, the NCAA's ratings still surpassed those of the NBA. And once a player can make it to the NCAA Finals, this widely watched game across the United States will emerge. Even though he was previously just an unknown substitute player, he can still receive a lot of attention after the game, attract a large wave of traffic, and become a well-known basketball star in the short term. Mellon, things are not going well. We haven't scored in 3 minutes. Since you stepped down, our offensive momentum has come to a standstill. I remember, before you left, the Kansas Hawks only scored 25 points, right? What's the score now? Dude, it's 37 points. This is only a few minutes, isn't it? Although we are still leading, they are about to catch up with the current momentum. I think at this time, as the absolute core of the Syracuse Orange man, you must step forward. Mellon, you don't want to lose the final and become the biggest loser in the semifinals, do you? You don't want to enter the NBA under the guise of a loser and be ridiculed or teased, do you? With your personal strength, you are definitely the strongest rookie of the year, and even the most talented player in history. It is absolutely disrespectful for any NBA team to not choose you after winning the top pick. However, if you fail here, they will question you, deny you, and even consider using the top scorer to choose other geniuses. People only remember the first place, no one remembers the second place. Mellon, we should go on stage now. The voice of speaking comes from the bench of the Syracuse Oranges. I saw a player with an Asian face, handsome features, firm lines, resembling Yan Can, wearing a training suit for the Syracuse Orange man. Sitting next to Cameron Anthony, the most powerful player in NCAA history and the head of the Syracuse Orange team, whispering to Anthony. Seeing the increasingly anxious and unfavorable situation on the field, Anthony couldn't sit still. At this moment, when I heard the instigation of my teammates around me, I suddenly jumped up from the bench. Dunn, you're right. The team needs me, and I have to return to the field and lead the team to win the game. Upon hearing this, Dunn immediately added, and me, I will help you win this game. I am your most trustworthy brother. Dunn and Anthony have known each other for a long time. They had already fought at AAU before joining Syracuse University, so they can be considered strangers. However, compared to the proud son of Anthony, even as a traveler and with the help of a system, Dunn still finds it difficult to stand up to him. Anthony is a rare 5-star high school student, while Dunn is only one of the top 200 or so 3-star high school students in the United States. Although many NBA stars did not have ideal high school careers in their early years, such as Curry and Weishao being Samsung high school students, Lillard only having 2 stars, and Morant not even having a single star in the league. However, after entering university, they have made varying degrees of physical and technological progress. Can Dunn evolve like them? Dunn knows that playing basketball is very physical, and all skills are built on physical talent. So, Dunn started taking medication as early as high school, of course, just taking growth hormone, a drug that the body can secrete itself and is not easy to detect. But the fact shows that his physical condition is the same as the system shows. He is an ordinary person himself, and even with medication, his potential has been exhausted. Want the poor to mutate and enter the NBA? The current plan can only rely on the system to win this game, meet system conditions, and obtain new player templates. Of course, as a time traveler, Dunn had long known that even if he didn't make a move, the Syracuse Orange would still win this NCAA final under Anthony's leadership. But what does this have to do with Dunn? Honor belongs to Anthony, and data belongs to Anthony too. As a substitute player for the Syracuse Orange, Dunn won the championship with Anthony's thigh in his arms, but he didn't get anything. It's like, Barthel is about to follow the Spurs to win the NBA championship, but apart from domestic fans, who would remember the Spurs having Barthel? Remember that Barthel was one of the heroes of the 2003 Spurs championship. Obviously, Dunn's goal is not just to win and win. Dunn is unwilling to continue being unknown, unwilling to be a traveler, as a system owner, yet living such a low-key and miserable life. So, Dunn must become famous and strive for a bright future. As the saying goes, all you talk about are brothers, but behind the scenes are interests. What brother basketball, hometown basketball, school district basketball, ultimately boils down to the word interest. They say brothers are like siblings. As Anthony's brother, it should be reasonable to follow him to eat and drink spicy food, and then grab 1 or 2 fists of money and carry it in one's own pocket, right? People who don't do it for themselves will be killed by heaven and earth. Being brothers with Anthony is very simple, just to grab some traffic and earn some fame and fortune. Of course, in a few years, if there is anything I can do to help out of fame, Dunn will naturally take action. At least you want to help Anthony win an NBA championship, right? As for now, we need Anthony to pull him. As a substitute with an average of 6.3 points, 1.4 rebounds, and 0.7 assists per game this season, freshman year, Dunn must rely on Anthony's mouth to get a chance to play in order to shine in the NCAA finals. Dunn is not qualified to negotiate with Jim Boeheim, the coach of Syracuse Orange, but as long as Anthony speaks up and expresses his desire to play brotherly basketball with Dunn, Dunn will definitely be able to play. Coach, I want to play basketball. Anthony, full of fighting spirit, challenged Boeheim. Dunn immediately followed and said, "Me too. That's right, let Dunn play like me. Coach." Anthony's tone was very excited, as if he was a bit grateful. Dunn was willing to be in a disadvantageous position on the team and fight alongside him. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Substitute comes on, Gua has gravity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Substitute comes on, Gua Gua has gravity, I know you're in a hurry, but don't worry for now. Bareem almost roared at Anthony. Bohem's temper is well known throughout the entire NCAA. He is prone to getting angry, cursing the team members for not defending properly, not playing well in attacking tactics, and often questioning the referee's decisions. Occasionally, he also takes offense at the assistant coach. Without a doubt, he is a very difficult tyrant to provoke on the basketball court. Not to mention, as the head coach of Syracuse Orange, he has been deeply cultivating for decades and has already developed a decisive personality. At this time, where can he tolerate the public resistance of his disciples? Cameron Anthony is the proud son of heaven, yes, he personally recruited him back then. But what about this? After this game, won't Anthony be leaving Syracuse Orange man? Anthony is not even ready to play for him, so why bother? What Bohem really cares about is that this is the NCAA final venue, the basketball holy land of North America. The New Orleans Superdome Arena. There are over 40,000 spectators and hundreds of media outlets on site today. Family shame cannot be exposed. Although Bohem's irritability has become notorious, there has never been a scandal of falling out with his disciples before. That's also why, as a coach's authority, Bareem was only very angry about Anthony's performance after being challenged by him, but did not immediately curse. In the event of a disciple's betrayal that harmed his fundamental interests, Bohem still maintained his dignity as a teacher. "Coach, please forgive our selfishness." Dunn spoke up promptly and helped Anthony transfer his firepower. Before inciting Anthony to challenge the authority of Bareem, Dunn also considered various possible situations that could occur during this period. NCAA is completely different from the NBA. The coach is the leader of the team, the coach is the person who truly speaks the truth within the team, and the authority of the coach is beyond doubt. Just like some teachers who have lost their eyes to power, they are accustomed to being pampered on a daily basis, and their functions are not great, but their official prestige is not small. Even ordinary elementary school teachers must cooperate with their parents in every way, wishing that their parents could be their oxen and horses. The same goes for NCAA coaches. Even if players play for them, there is no profit except for scholarships. The annual ratings of NCAA are not inferior to those of the four major leagues, and correspondingly, the profits are not small. While earning a lot of money in NCAA, as a coach with vested interests, he naturally enjoys a comfortable life, enjoying a salary of millions of yuan per year, which is even more nourishing than that of an NBA coach. And behind this phenomenon, it can be said that it was entirely obtained by exploiting NCAA players. However, the coach is aloof and inviolable. Players are just laborers, they are not allowed to question or resist. Normally, the relationship between coaches and players is the relationship between capitalists and workers. But this also requires separation and coordination, just like in today's situation, the roles of both parties can actually be exchanged. Because Bareem has coached the Syracuse Oranges for over 30 years, not without leading the team to the NCAA finals, but the previous two attempts ended in failure. As an NCAA coach, always winning the runner-up is not a glorious thing. This season, Bareem truly felt the possibility of winning the championship by acquiring a peerless talent like Anthony. And this is also the confidence that Dunn has in designing all of this. If we lose this game, I still have 3 years left. I can try hard and return to the semi-finals. You also have 5 or 10 years to cultivate the next team to compete for the championship. But Anthony is different. We all know that he only has this opportunity this year. He is the pride of heaven, there is no word for failure in his dictionary. He should go to the NBA with the pride of NCAA championship and Syracuse Orange man, rather than with regret and disappointment. Coach, I'm begging you, let's go on stage. I think a few years later, on the day Anthony won the NBA championship. You don't want to appear at the NBA finals because you feel guilty about what happened today, do you? Lies won't hurt people, truth is the sharp sword. After Dunn finished speaking, Boeheim immediately felt very heartbroken. Then, naturally, he also noticed Dunn, the disciple who had hurt him but had already been sentenced to death by him before. In Boeheim's view, Dunn is just an ordinary foreign player with average talent. It's not a pity that Dunn couldn't play Orange Man in Syracuse. So, when Dunn followed Anthony and challenged his authority together, Boeheim didn't even take Dunn seriously. Dunn's weight in his heart is lighter than air. However, what Dunn had just said was like a huge rock, pressing down on his heart and lungs. Boeheim felt, I can't breathe. In fact, it is not a pity that Boeheim has messed up his master-apprentice relationship with Anthony, and no one can challenge his authority as a coach. After listening to Dunn's words, it's a real pity that Boeheim, who thinks he's amazing and talented, has not yet won the NCAA championship. More importantly, he has already been diagnosed with cancer, which is still quite embarrassing: prostate cancer. Boeheim often worries about leaving the world with regret before winning the NCAA championship. As Dunn said, if tonight's game fails, Anthony will leave NCAA with regret. He is not like that. Compared to other sports schools, Syracuse Orange people do not have the ability to win NCAA championships every year. Once Boeheim loses the most powerful life in history like Anthony, and wants to win the championship in the next 10 years, I don't know if he will encounter such good luck again this year. In addition, if Anthony gets into a fight with him over today's incident, his reputation will also plummet. By then, perhaps there will be no 5-star high school students willing to serve him. Pause. Boeheim signaled to the referee and made the decision to pause the substitution. Next, he forcefully controlled his anger and twisted his stinky face towards Dunn and Anthony. Mellon, Dunn, I believe you all. Go ahead and kick the Kansas Eagles, but hard. In this way, after 17 minutes in the first half of the NCAA final, Dunn finally got a substitute opportunity in the last 3 minutes of the first half, which was almost over. Mellon, pass the ball to me like you did to Gree before, do you understand? Dunn and Anthony were on the field together, giving instructions as they walked. No problem. Anthony was very grateful to Dunn for standing up and helping him share the pressure when Boeheim put pressure on him. So, he gave Dunn a signature sunny and cheerful smile from a big boy. In this game, the top scorer for the Syracuse Oranges was not the absolute core, attacking kaleidoscope Anthony, but white point guard Jerry McNamara. During Anthony's 13-minute game, McNamara made 5 out of 7 three-pointers and scored the highest 15 points of the game. However, in the 4 minutes after Anthony's exit, McNamara's previously hot shooting experience was directly frozen by the Kansas Jets' top guard, Wade Conqueror, Kirk Sinrich, and he made a terrible 4.0 performance. It can be said that McNamara's lack of ball-holding ability was the main culprit for the Syracuse Oranges' stagnant scoring during this period, as he wanted to play the hero's ball while Anthony was not present, making too many shots but unable to score. The fundamental reason for this situation is that Anthony's reputation is well known and the threat of attack is too great. The Kansas Eagles had no choice but to take a step within the 3-point line and adopted a double-team strategy against Anthony, who was holding the ball. As a result, while Anthony was present, McNamara, as a first-year point guard, gained a lot of empty 3-point opportunities. Anthony, who was originally not very good at passing, received 4 assists early in the 13 minutes of the first half. To describe this phenomenon in one word, it is that melons have gravity. In NBA terms, it means that Ku has gravity and Ku has gravity. The difference between the two is that Curry has no ball to wrap around and often cannot get the ball. Teammate Green, who is holding the ball, is often left empty for 3 to 5 meters. He often sees Curry running a marathon but unable to pass the ball, and then turns to the basket but unable to shoot. Kobe was caught holding the ball and saw his teammates in an empty position, but he often looked at people and didn't pass the ball, choosing to make his own strong pitches. Dunn finally made it to the court, so naturally he hoped Anthony wouldn't play too Kobe. Mellon, the water in the final is too deep for you to grasp, let me do it. Dunn believes that his ability to shoot from an open position is still very good. After all, the newbie gift package he received gave him the Ma Jian template, which is closely related to the history of the number 1 power forward. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. 3 points of empty space, get out of here. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. 3 points of empty space, get out of here. Both CBA fans and NBA fans are familiar with the name Ma Jian. Compared to ordinary players, Ma Jian's life can be said to be very legendary. Whether as a player or a basketball commentator, both have 2 tricks. I participated in the national team in my early years and also played for my country. It is understandable to see the vast world outside and strive to improve oneself as much as possible. Others don't have the courage and perseverance to venture alone into North America and become the first person in the Chinese basketball NCAA. Although the final result is not ideal, what right do other people who have not worked hard or struggled have to mock the lone hero? Wang Zhizhi also ventured into the NBA alone, crossing the river by feeling the stones, without achieving much success. Instead, he caused a lot of trouble. Should he be ridiculed? Without Wang Zhizhi's involvement in the game, there would be no Yao Ming entering the NBA as the top pick, showcasing the highest level of Chinese players in the NBA. Compared to players who have already paved the way through hardships and obstacles, but have chosen not to follow the path of the NBA, pioneers like Ma Jian and Wang Zhizhi are undoubtedly admirable. Of course, in sports competition, when it comes to strength, it's the original sin. Once upon a time, Dunn also mocked Ma Jian, who was full of tendons and muscles, looking very intimidating, but dared not shoot into the basket, just floating outside shooting. This gameplay was really too soft. However, after entering the NCAA, Dunn had to question Ma Jian, understand him, and become Ma Jian. Because NCAA does not have a 3-second defense and can play joint defense, regardless of offense or defense, the larger players of both teams will basically fill the paint area. As a result, the space under the basket is very small, and wingers either possess strong physical talents or excellent shooting abilities, otherwise it is difficult to score in the NCAA. In other words, if James doesn't choose to skip college, he will directly bring his talent to the NBA. The reputation of the draft will also be like that of Wiggins, all showcased in high school, but university may not be as eye-catching and disappear from the crowd. If you don't believe it, you can try watching the competition videos of the 2004 Olympics and the 2006 World Championships. Ultimately, it is a player with weak shooting ability who relies solely on scoring from the basket and is not suitable to play under the rules of NCAA and FIBA. NCAA's defensive strength is not weak, and referees are not accustomed to individual stars. In the process of dribbling confrontation, without excellent ball control ability, dribbling often falls halfway. Dare to lift your elbow, dare to walk, dare to turn your wrist, then go down. Even if you rely on pick and roll to get to the bottom of the basket and find that the inside line is full of people and big men, no matter how clever the layup skills are, you will still be blocked and disoriented. As for relying on physical talent to transform attacks, NCAA specializes in team basketball, and the cake cannot be enjoyed by one person alone. So, NCAA is more suitable for perimeter players with strong shooting abilities, as well as interior players with explosive physical talents, to showcase their talents. Redick's physical talent is average, but he relies on his precise projection ability to defeat all directions in the NCAA. Oden is a rough guy who can also thrive on his body in NCAA. Dunn himself is an ordinary person, even if he obtained the Ma Jian template, he also developed a body full of dead muscles in the gym. However, relying solely on physical confrontation still cannot gain a significant advantage in NCAA. And what the Syracuse Oranges need from Dunn is to help the team's main players open up space on the field, that is, the ability to punish opponents with empty shots. Fortunately, Ma Jian's mid-range shooting ability is still good, and Dunn, due to his personal talent, added practice with a free-hand 3-point shooting. Basketball Achievement System. Dunn, 19 years old, player template. Ma Jian, physical fitness. Static. Height 199 centimeters, arm extension 204 centimeters, touch height 262 centimeters, weight 206 pound strength. 81 upper limbs, 64 core, 73 lower limb speed. 75 in a straight line, 62 in a horizontal direction, and 72 in a burst bounce. Stand at 70, approach at 75, and bounce speed at 72 agility. Balance 68, coordination 69, flexibility 72 recovery. 75 stamina, 68 stamina, 77 stamina, basketball technique. Ball control. Dribbling 66, ball protection 63, passing 62, ball sensation 53 no ball. Catch 68, run 58, break 64, cut 72, cover 75 defense. Interference 67, external defense 77, internal defense 79, cooperative defense 73, steals 62, blocks 74 rebounding. 63 in the front court, 78 in the back court, 81 in the blocks, with a prediction of 66 frame. Breakthrough 69, dunk 79, layup 73, close range 70, mid-range 81, three-pointers 75 backbasket. Position 71, step 63, backstroke 78, hook 74 other. 75 free throws, 67 layups, 65 pick and roll, 72 fast breaks, 64 feints, 60 fouls made, strength evaluation. 71, basketball players with mediocre physical talent and depleted potential, possessing certain shooting and defensive abilities, may have the opportunity to obtain a base salary contract in the NBA. Compared to black players, Dunn has poor static and dynamic talents, especially in the area of arm extension. However, Dunn did not consider arm extension as his own weakness. Although there are indeed shortcomings, in Dunn's view, this also has certain advantages. That's short arm shooting. As is well known, to shoot accurately, it is best to take a standard position and maintain 390 degrees. However, in fact, people with longer arm extensions find it more difficult to maintain 390-degree shooting positions, and they may feel uncomfortable while shooting. Even if the shooting action is forcefully corrected, serious elbow eversion will eventually occur. In other words, 3 standard positions of 90 degrees are only suitable for short arm players. So, NBA players often have shorter arm spans and stronger shooting abilities. That's also why, with 2K self-built templates, the longer the arm span, the worse the shot. A person like Durant with a long arm can still throw with unparalleled accuracy, which can only be described as having exceptional talent and extraordinary talent. Because he is not only accurate, but also because his arms are long enough, his shooting point is extremely high, making it difficult for others to block him. Not to mention that he is already tall, which makes it even more difficult to defend. In addition, arm length also has significant advantages in defense and dribbling. The defensive and dribbling areas are relatively larger, making it easier to interfere with opponents and not be disturbed by them. But if we return to shooting, the shorter arm span will not only be more accurate, but also lead to faster shots. As the first scorer in history, Curry's short arms undoubtedly provided great help. Durant is tall enough and long enough to ignore defense. Curry can also ignore defense because he is fast enough. In order to avoid interference in his shots and achieve a higher shooting percentage, Dunn is fully aligned with Curry. With the help of one's own short arm and single shot, the shooting speed becomes quite fast. However, single shot shooting has obvious flaws. That is, when facing physical confrontation, shooting becomes very unstable. Because the power of a single shot is from the foot to the hand, and the overall coherence. Once approached by the opponent and subjected to physical confrontation, the force will be incomplete and the shot will be crooked. Moreover, the shooting point for a single shot is relatively low, and once someone is defending in front of them, it is easy to be blocked. So, Dunn's 3 points are limited to the empty 3 points. Also, due to muscle memory, the shooting rate is relatively higher in the area where 3-pointers are usually trained. So, Dunn wants to throw a 3-point shot with more confidence in the game. This requires Anthony to cooperate with him and give him the opportunity to create a 3-point shot with empty spots. Thanks to it, Dunn is the little transparent of the Syracuse Orange man. After coming on the field, he played as a shooting guard again, and it was the Kansas Jets' leading player, Sinridge, who defended him. In other words, the Kansas Jets have equipped a large number of strikers on the outside in order to help Nick Collison, who has an absolute advantage in the inside, open up space. Now in this NCAA final, as usual, we are playing in a 3-back lineup. So, facing Anthony is Keith Longford, a shooting guard who is only 193 meters tall. Relying solely on Langford's defense, it is natural that he cannot bring down Anthony, who is omnipotent in the NCAA. So, as the leader of the Kansas Eagles, Sinridge immediately grabbed the ball from Anthony as soon as he received it. During his college years, Anthony had not yet developed the bad habit of fighting alone like he did in the NBA, and he received a reminder from his good brother, Dunn, before playing. At this moment, I noticed that Sinridge was caught and naturally passed the ball to Dunn, who was in an empty position. Speaking slowly and quickly, Sinridge reacted promptly and immediately turned around to pounce on Dunn. However, after receiving the ball, Dunn picked it up from his waist and kicked off without any adjustment. In fact, the jump is not high, only about 10 centimeters, which is a bit like the tiptoe shot during daily shooting training. As a pitcher, Sinridge saw Dunn's shooting state and immediately thought to himself, "It's broken." Although Dunn's shooting was a bit rushed, the movements were too natural and coherent, just like eating and drinking water. Brush, basketball enters the net, playing the sound of spring water splashing. On the sidelines, with a gloomy expression and a solemn expression on his face, Boheme couldn't help but shake his eyebrows. "Dunn, I knew you could get in." Anthony saw Dunn shooting and immediately rushed towards him, wanting to celebrate with him, as if he was even happier than his own 3-point shot. Upon seeing this, Dunn breathed a sigh of relief and couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth. However, on the surface, Dunn still appeared very calm. "Melon, this ball was passed well by you. But we don't have time to celebrate. Defend, come back quickly." The Kansas kids want to play fast. Upon hearing this, Anthony accelerated and ran to Dunn's side, extending his hand. Dunn understood and slapped him, then both retreated back to the backcourt. The next second, I saw Enrique quickly advancing with the ball, and half of the court had already passed. The Syracuse Orange's defense is still very disciplined. At this point, not only outside players like Dunn and Anthony have returned to the backcourt, but the remaining inside players have also returned. In order to limit Collison's impact, the Syracuse Orange put on 2 or 3 joint defense, with 2 insiders and Anthony already sinking into the paint area. Sinridge couldn't hang the ball to Collison, so he had to choose to pass it to Langford, who had more confidence in shooting. As for why he didn't pitch, it was naturally because he needed to focus his energy on the defensive end and limit the attack of the Syracuse Orange outfielder players. However, Longford is a standard double shot and his shooting speed is not fast. Dunn stood in the bull's horn position before and could pounce in front of Langford with just 1 step outside. Although the forearm is not good at blocking, at least it can still throw out to scare Langford and interfere with his shooting. Not to mention, Dunn has obtained the Ma Jian template and still has some experience in defense. With the help of eye-blocking defense, Dunn successfully interfered with Langford's shot. I only heard a sound from behind from Dunn, as well as the familiar garbage words Anthony used when grabbing rebounds. "My rebounds, get out of here." End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Big Heart Players, starting in the second half. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Big Heart Players, starting in the second half. Dunn thought Anthony had grabbed the rebound, so he immediately went for a fast break. Scoring 3 points is Dunn's job, and fast attacking is the life Dunn wants. If there is no absolute talent, who really wants to rely on technology to make a living? Irving's breakthrough technique is exquisite and stunning, but if he had the explosive power of Wade and Ross, where would he need to do so many complex fake actions? Curry is the top scorer in history, and isn't he also longing for dunks like Carter and Raven, who are flying, evading, and skilled? From a practical perspective of the game, for Dunn personally, even with a 3-point vacancy, his shooting percentage is just over 40%. But if it's a fast break, facing an empty basket, Dunn has a 70.8% chance of getting 2 points. Running to the 3-point line in the front court with a heavy head, Dunn turned to check Anthony's position and wanted to score a dunk with the ball. Unexpectedly, the ball at this moment was not in Anthony's hands, but instead was snatched by Collison. Originally, it was just Anthony's habit of shouting when grabbing rebounds before, and the rebounds did not actually fall into Anthony's hands. "You can't rob 2 of the 3, can you?" Dunn muttered to himself in a low voice. Running to the front field alone is very awkward. He seems to be completely in 2 worlds with the other 9 players on the field. Fortunately, Collison is very strong. At this moment, he suddenly transformed into O'Neal, firmly facing the defense of 3 people and putting the ball into the basket. Anthony is truly a good brother, immediately sneaking the ball out of the baseline and launching a long pass towards Dunn in the front court. Although Enrique had already noticed that Dunn had made an early fast attack, he had already caught up with the basket. However, there is a significant height difference between the two, with Sinrich half a head shorter than Dunn. Even though Duann's arm span is short and his running and jumping abilities are not good, the difficulty of catching the ball this time is not small, but fortunately Duann's strength is relatively outstanding. Sinrich wanted to go around and intercept Anthony's pass, but was pushed away by Dunn with a swing of his arm. Watching Dunn jump up and grab the ball, Sinrich still tried hard to turn around and block Duann's layup. But it turned out to be a futile effort. Dunn stood in a reasonable collision zone, acting as if he were a Tyrannosaurus Rex. With a few thrusts, he pushed him away again, then jumped up and completed a critical hit on his head. "You made it too ugly." Dunn was feeling proud and didn't expect such a piercing sound to come from behind. "My dunk is ugly. Don't you have eyes?" This is clearly a concise and powerful dunk, which can be regarded as a model of violent aesthetics. "If my arm span were 10 centimeters longer, I could also swing the windmill like Duncan." "Oh no, Carter is so round," Dunn retorted angrily, looking back and realizing that it was Langford who had been disturbed by Dunn's shot before speaking. "Dunn, don't fall for it, Kansas Eagles watch is trying to provoke you. This also precisely indicates that they are afraid of you. In short, you did a great job and helped the team establish a 3-point lead after coming on the field. If you like dunking, I can teach you better dunking techniques." After the game, Snow City Orange's substitute point guard Andrew Cuvey noticed the commotion here and immediately stepped forward to advise, fearing that the young and energetic Dunn would clash with the Kansas man. After all, Dunn is not cowardly, even Coach Boeheim dares to challenge him. Just a slight swing of Dunn's big arm and elbow may lead to a criminal. Andrew Cuvey knew his personal strength was insufficient, so he really wanted to win the NCAA championship as a key to opening the door to the NBA. Dunn was never up to it, at most he was exposed by someone, and he was a bit embarrassed and angry. Taking advantage of the Kansas Eagles not immediately launching a fast attack, Dunn returned to the backcourt and stood ready. "Mellon, you still need 4 assists." "What?" Anthony said he didn't hear the meaning in Dunn's words. Dunn took some time to pick up Anthony and said, "You have already received 6 assists, but the first half is not over yet. Tonight, you have a chance to win 3 doubles and enter the NBA as the champion. The future belongs to you, the champion belongs to you, and the top scorer will also belong to you." Anthony obviously didn't notice that Dunn was constantly pushing him, just simply believing that Dunn was a good brother who was always thinking about him. So, for the next two attacking opportunities, Anthony will use flowers and flowers as a reward, and distribute the ball to Dunn, who is in an empty position. Dunn didn't disappoint Anthony either. He made 1 out of 2 shots and once again contributed an assist to Anthony with a 3-pointer. 55.42, the first half of the game is over. At a critical moment when the Kansas Hawks were chasing 7 points in a row, narrowing the score to within 10 points. The Syracuse Oranges, with the help of Anthony and Dunn, who were on the verge of crisis, once again widened the gap and led the Kansas Jets by a full 13 points. A 13-point lead is enough to give the Syracuse Orange a huge advantage in the pursuit of the NCAA championship. Even if Boeheim was displeased with the rebellious behavior of the two villains, Anthony and Dunn, seeing their witty and humorous endings as they slowly walked towards the bench, he had to greet them with a smile and warmly encourage them with words. "You did a good job and didn't waste the pause I just called for. Mellon, you are a born leader, you can do anything. Dunn, I've taken my eyes off you. You're a naturally big-hearted player, and I haven't seen any timidity in you. If you can continue to perform like this, then I can make a promise to you that you will be our key player for next season. I believe you can shine brightly on the field. So, in the second half, I will have you start with Mellon." Watching the championship trophy wave at him, Boeheim's little mouth was like wiping honey. "Great, we can fight side by side again." Anthony was also pleased to hear this. Dunn calmly patted Anthony's thigh and said, "You need to score more points and grab more rebounds." Anthony did not have the idea of diving into the sewer, but with the victory in his hands, he also hopes to perform better and more comprehensively to the world. The second half quickly resumed, perhaps realizing the shortcomings of the first half. The Kansas Jets no longer played a small 3-back lineup, but instead played a normal lineup against the Syracuse Oranges. It's also because the size is right that when Anthony takes the ball, Sinrick doesn't need to overly assist in defense. Anthony, on the other hand, was determined to showcase his team spirit, so even if he got the chance to play singles, he didn't go solo and instead passed the ball to Dunn. In the first half, Dunn had a hot touch, and Anthony thought Dunn could continue his brilliant performance. After receiving the ball, Dunn immediately looked dumbfounded and said in his heart, "Big brother, why don't you think the core of your team is not singles? Let me, as a character player, be the strongest opponent in singles defense." Knowing that Anthony is not James, this is out of good intentions, so Dunn can only mute and eat Huanglian, unable to express any bitterness. Strength does not allow Dunn to play singles, but after receiving the ball, Dunn felt embarrassed to say, like Kwame Brown, with a disheartened expression, "Don't pass the ball to me." In order to not disappoint Anthony's kindness, Dunn could only force his back to defend against Sinrich and use his strength advantage to high back hit Sinrich, consuming his stamina. Sinrichi's confrontation was not really bad, but Dunn was tall, big, and powerful. Dunn, who fiercely chiseled into the inside, quickly hit Sinrich near the free throw line like a bulldozer, attracting the Kansas Jets to defend the inside. Noticing someone coming over, Dunn pretended to turn his back and prepare to shoot. Just as he turned around, Dunn quickly observed the situation inside. Kansas star player Collison was seen blocking Hakeem Warwick's position on the inside. At the same time, another interior player of the Syracuse Oranges, Craig Fox, is in an undefended position. Dunn's passing ability is average, so he doesn't play flashy passes. Instead, he chooses a high lob and throws the ball directly into the basket. Fox understood and took off to catch the air. Warwick knew he was losing to Collison, but for the honor of the team, he also secretly pulled Collison's clothes, making it impossible for him to jump and interfere with Fox's basket attack. In the end, Fox made an empty connection and completed an internal and external connection with Dunn. Watching the team's lead expand to 15 points, Bergheim, with his hands in his pockets on the sidelines, also showed a confident and indifferent demeanor as a famous coach. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Iron Symphony, Team Scoring King. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Iron Symphony, Team Scoring King, Mellon, you should stand up and score. In the second half, he only played for 5 minutes when Kansas took the initiative to call a timeout and return to the bench. Dunn, who sat side by side with Anthony, began to pick up his good brother Anthony. In just 5 minutes of the game, Dunn gained 3 points and 3 assists again, which is naturally due to having a lot of ball power in hand. In addition, Dunn is paired with the top scorer of the Kansas Jets, Sin Ridge, who is destined to be selected by the lottery team for the lottery show. During the match between the two, Dunn demonstrated excellent adversarial skills, defensive awareness, and a stable open three-pointer, which undoubtedly greatly enhanced Dunn's draft prospects. So, Dunn's original intention was not to encourage Anthony to consume a lot of ball rights and actively score for the Syracuse Oranges. Dunn's real goal is to make progress by retreating, and continue to make Anthony willingly pass the ball to him. After nearly a year of spending time together day and night, Dunn has accurately grasped Anthony's personality, which is: people respect me 1 foot, I respect people 1 foot. Although Anthony is a college student, in reality, he cannot distinguish between hypocrisy and sugar-coated bullets. Just like Wade, he always couldn't figure out what his best brother was thinking. At this moment, Anthony also did not know the true thoughts in Dunn's heart. "Don't worry, I will lead the team to win this game." Anthony gave Dunn another iconic, sunny big boy smile. The suspension time of NCAA is relatively longer than that of the NBA, and the head coach of Syracuse Orange, Wolverine, only summoned players who were about to return to the field when the suspension time was almost over. "Stay focused, keep the pace low, and defend well. You are my pride, and also the pride of the Syracuse Orange people. Go ahead, enjoy the game, win the game, I believe you all." Most NCAA and NBA head coaches are not very good on the spot. They are better at team building, training, player training, pre-match layout and post-match adjustment. However, some people don't have any pressure in their hearts and usually use a tactical board to pretend. In fact, the more important thing to do on the field is to give players chicken blood. Boeheim is quite self-aware. Although they were only giving players chicken blood, they did not put too much pressure and burden on them, and instead chose to leave the game to the players themselves to handle. Of course, with only the last 15 minutes left in this NCAA final, the Syracuse Oranges have taken a 16-point lead and are already in control of the victory. In order to prevent capsizing in the sewer, as a head coach, it is necessary to remind players to lower the pace of the game and play steadily. Keep in mind that the NCAA's offensive time limit is different from the NBA's 24 seconds, but is as long as 35 seconds. In fact, in earlier years, in order to play a more exquisite team cooperation and the tactics that the head coach had in mind, the NCAA's attack time limit was even as high as 45 seconds. It was also to increase the viewing value of NCAA that the attack time limit was changed to 35 seconds starting from 1993. To further shorten the attack time, it will take until 2015 to shorten it to 30 seconds. To get to the point, after both teams returned to the field, the Kansas Jets immediately launched a fierce attack on the Syracuse Oranges. However, the confident Syracuse Orange players on the field also calmly responded and actively engaged in high-intensity physical confrontations with the Kansas Jets. With Collison's strong shot under the basket failing to succeed and not reaching the free throw line at the whistle station. The Syracuse Orange man, who protects his defensive rebounds, plays more steadily. For Syracuse Orange players, at least 30 seconds of 35 seconds of attack time can be consumed. So, Anthony was not in a hurry to grab the ball, but instead took the initiative to run and landed in the right corner squatting. Anthony is the attacking core of the Syracuse Oranges, and the Kansas Eagles naturally cannot ignore him. Therefore, someone had to be sent to the bottom corner to hand Anthony, who was smoking in the bottom corner, an ashtray. When there are only two 1-on-1 guards at the top of the arc, the Syracuse Oranges are not worried about their own point guards making control mistakes due to the Kansas Jets suddenly catching the ball. Sinrich noticed that the Syracuse Oranges began to consciously lower the pace of the game and reduce the number of rounds for both sides. Considering that they are 16 points behind the Syracuse Orange man. Zinlich, who was eager to win, had to be influenced by the scheming of the Syracuse Orange man. He found an opportunity to take the initiative and forced the Syracuse Orange man to take the ball. "Help me fill the space." Sinrich rushed towards Andrew Cuvey while reaching out to his inner teammates to help him keep an eye on Dunn, who had already opened up a large space. Andrew Cuvey was facing a trap and naturally felt a bit anxious. Without saying a word, he passed the ball to Dunn, who was lurking on the flank. Due to a hasty pass, Dunn was not very stable in receiving the ball and could not immediately pick it up and throw it out as usual. Also, due to the shorter three-point line of NCAA, the distance for interior players to run from low to high is shorter, and their speed is correspondingly faster. When Dunn made the necessary adjustments and was ready to raise his hand to shoot, Kansas Jets power forward Jeff Graves had already rushed towards Dunn. Upon seeing this, Dunn feigned and shook the ball before adjusting his dribbling to prepare for a shot. However, Sinrich pounced on Dunn like a starving tiger. The timely filling of the position now scared Dunn. Fortunately, the inside line is a 2-against-1 situation, and Fox is in a situation of being let out. Dunn did not choose to shoot, but wisely chose to pass the ball. After receiving the ball, Fox dribbled again before taking off and dunking, but was hit by a big hat from Collison and the racket flew away. Fortunately, no one received the ball, so the possession of the ball returned to the hands of the Syracuse Orange man. The problem is that there are only 7 seconds left in this round's attack time, which seems somewhat rushed for NCAA players. However, the Syracuse Oranges have Anthony, who, as the team leader, took the initiative to take over the blame. After serving the ball, Anthony, who received it, started playing the hero ball, facing the two sandwiches, forcefully threw a mid-range shot, and then made a crisp iron shot. On the side of the Syracuse Oranges, except for the symbolic grabbing of the offensive rebound by the inside players, the other three quickly returned to defense to avoid being hit by the Kansas Jets for a fast break. Because the difference in points was still 16 points, but the game time was approaching 14 minutes, Aaron Miles, who was extremely anxious, tried to throw a three-pointer chase. Unfortunately, this ball almost came in. But if you don't make it, it means you haven't made it, which is equivalent to giving Snow City Orange man a wave of ball rights in vain. Andrew Cuvey once again transformed into a dribbling guard, steadily lowering the pace of the game. Zinrich, who wanted to become the firefighting captain, had no choice but to release Dunn again, but this time there was a hint of disorganization. Andrew Cuvey had his previous experience, and the ball he passed to Dunn this time was relatively more comfortable. Dunn also felt that his shooting speed could ignore the interference of Graves, so he didn't dribble and just picked up the ball, adjusted it slightly, and threw it directly. There is a 3-point vacancy, what is there that I dare not throw? If it's a big deal, just shout Dunn. Anyway, Anthony did it too. It doesn't make sense to shoot. You have to go in, right? I can only say 63-47, the advantage lies in me. Dunn in the second half continued the fiery feel of the first half. Only a swipe was heard, and Dunn scored another 3 points. Although this is not a decisive 3-point victory, it is also the last few straw that crushed the camel. As the difference in points widened, almost reaching 20 points, the players of the Kansas Jets naturally became more and more impatient. To both chase points and turn a defeat into a victory within a limited time, the outside players of the Kansas Jets can only hope for a 3-point shot and turn their fortunes upside down. The sound of forging iron in Duang 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 fell into Anthony's ear like a symphony. Originally, Anthony still needed a few rebounds to achieve a triple-double, so there's no need to worry now. The rebounds have already taken the lead in assisting, making it to the double. With 14 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists, Dunn is more concerned about his data than Anthony. With 9 minutes left until the end of the game and no touch in a while, Dunn kindly reminded Anthony. Anthony didn't refuse either. The team's leading advantage was originally created by their two brothers. What's wrong with enjoying it? So, the Kansas Eagles players on the field didn't expect the Syracuse Oranges to suddenly change their mind and switch to Anthony holding the ball and attacking. When he subconsciously believed that Anthony was going to attack in singles and make a big move, Anthony, who was sandwiched, sent another assist to Dunn. As a result, Dunn's scoring data for this game rose to 17 points, smoothly surpassing McNamara and Anthony, becoming the scoring king of the Syracuse Oranges. And Anthony also won 3 doubles, both of whom have a bright future. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. NCAA Champion, visit here. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 NCAA Champion, visit here in the next attack round of the Syracuse Oranges, where Dunn scored a 3-pointer, Boehm took the initiative to call a timeout. When Dunn got off the field, he looked at the timer on the sidelines and found that there were still 8 minutes and 49 seconds left in the game. This is probably the tacit understanding between NCAA coaches, right? Dunn thought to himself. Dunn knows that wherever there are people, there are rivers and lakes. The martial arts world is not about fighting and killing, but about being worldly wise. As long as they are not local rivals or historical life and death enemies, they will basically leave a trace of affection to prevent the game from losing so badly, so that we can meet better in the future. Under the leadership of Anthony and Dunn, the Syracuse Oranges have widened their lead to a maximum of 23 points. Now, when they leave the field, the lead is also maintained at 18 points. With just over 8 minutes left, as long as the Syracuse Orange players defend seriously, even if they don't score a single point, there is no chance they will be defeated by the Kansas Jets. Mellon, Dunn, Hakeem, you have made enough for the Syracuse Orange man. Let's take a break first. I will send you to play during the decisive time later. You need to make some adjustments first to prepare for victory. Boehm withdrew the starting lineup and allowed McNamara to bring a group of first- and second-year substitute players to play against the Kansas Jets. It's not entirely letting go. Although the coach let go of the opponent, the players didn't have such thoughts. In the situation where the victory is in hand, the substitute players of the Syracuse Oranges do not have psychological pressure when playing, so like the main players, they are equally determined and give their all. People feel refreshed during happy events, and with the support of their mental state, the substitute players unexpectedly played quite well. In the next 4 minutes or so, the Kansas Eagles did catch up a bit, but only narrowed the difference to 13 points. Watching the difference approaching within 10 points, Boehm finally stopped pretending and took the initiative to call out a pause, starting to readjust the lineup. McNamara, Dunn, Anthony, Warwick, Fox, and Bareem finally put together the best lineup for the Syracuse Orange in this game. Returning to the field, Anthony, who was full of energy, relied on singles without saying a word and hit a mid-range shot. Collison refused to be outdone and made a strong kill under the basket, causing damage. However, he made 1 out of 2 free throws and had an average chasing effect. The Syracuse Orange has a huge advantage and continues to play at a low pace, waiting for the last 7 or 8 seconds before returning to the core strategy of handing the ball to Anthony. It was also because the shooting threats from McNamara and Dunn were too great, and Anthony took the initiative to squat in the corner to open up space. Even though the Kansas Jets played regional defense, they did not frequently trap the ball handler. McNamara's physical fitness is average, but his ball control skills are still very good. Even though Zinlich took the initiative to defend McNamara, he was unable to steal the ball from McNamara's hands. Also due to McNamara's possession of the ball, Dunn couldn't touch the ball for 2 minutes after returning to the field, so he focused on running back and forth. Finally, thanks to Anthony, he broke through the scoring and gave Dunn a 3-point opportunity in the corner. Dunn is only 3 points away, with a score of 20. Such a good opportunity is naturally not to be missed. Before Langford could pounce, Dunn quickly completed his move. With a sound from Duong, the ball hit the basket, but because the ball was spinning rapidly, it did not bounce out directly, but instead bounced straight upwards. When it fell again due to gravity, the basketball happened to bounce back into the basket. This is a lucky balloon, but it happens to be the key ball that helped Dunn score 20 points. Dunn, you cast too accurately. Anthony didn't choose to defend this time, but instead eagerly rushed towards Dunn and gave him a fierce hug. It seems like a young child, with a bright and innocent smile on his face. The game is not over yet. Dunn patted Anthony's buttocks. You have killed the game, they are finished. Anthony was happy for Dunn, as well as for himself. With Dunn hitting this three-pointer, the difference returned to 15 points. With only these 2 minutes left in the game, even giving the Kansas Jets a McGrady may not be enough to turn the tide and turn defeat into victory. Bang, due to Anthony and Dunn dropping the ball, Collison, who didn't talk about the ball, quickly broke into the interior with the help of a fast break in an attempt to boost the team's morale with a slam dunk. Dunn and Anthony turned their heads at the sound, only to find McNamara sneaking the ball out of the baseline and making a long pass towards the front court. Zenrique and Langford quickly returned to defense, but were still showcased by the connection between Dunn and Anthony. Anthony pretended to jump into the basket after receiving the ball, but in reality, he hit and passed the ball to Dunn. After Dunn grabbed the ball, he immediately stopped and took a step back, standing on the three-point line. When Sinridge and Langford flew towards him, Dunn threw the ball high. Anthony will keep up and perform an aerial relay. Then, with a celebratory gesture of 3 fingers popping their heads, they swaggered past Sinridge and Langford. Whenever Anthony throws a three-point shot or hits a crucial shot, he always does this. In Anthony's view, the airlock he worked with Dunn had completely killed the game. The on-site audience, apart from fans of the Kansas Eagles, were all cheering for Anthony. Perhaps it was this burst of cheers that became the last straw to crush the Kansas Eagle. In less than 2 minutes, Kansas only managed to score 2 points from free throws, with no athletic goals. 87.70, under the influence of Dunn, the Syracuse Oranges had an absolute lead of 17 points, beating the Kansas Jets. Speaking of which, at the moment when the game time was over, Anthony, holding the ball in his hand, excitedly threw it into the air and threw it randomly. Just as Anthony was running towards Dunn, wanting to give him a big hug, Dunn instead went to find the basketball that Anthony had thrown away. Are you going to take it home? Anthony didn't quite understand. I'm going to dedicate it to the coach, but I'll write my name on it in advance. Dunn honestly explained. Syracuse University has been established for over 100 years, and it is only this NCAA champion. So, Dunn was very clear in his heart that the ball used in this game would never be taken away by any player, but would be kept by the school and placed in the exhibition cabinet of the gymnasium. After playing this game, Dunn is ready to sign up for the upcoming NBA draft. Fortunately, I also stayed at Syracuse University for almost a year. Although I didn't have the chance to obtain my graduation certificate, Dunn had already paid tuition fees and couldn't come all the way. Dunn is here for a tour. Veni vidi vici. Dunn took out his pre-prepared watercolor pens and left his own marks on the basketball in both Chinese and English. Anthony saw that Dunn was so serious, so he followed suit and wrote his own name along with an inspirational message on basketball. Hurry up and cut the net. Dunn gestured to Anthony. Players who cannot take away the game ball can only cut the net, share a point with each other, and serve as souvenirs to commemorate victory in championship. Usually, the team's head coach and leading player are qualified to cut the net. Dunn handed the ball to Boeheim, so the physical labor of cutting the net was naturally done by Anthony, who was empty-handed. Dunn, you're quite good at getting things done. You'll be our main player next season. Boeheim was very satisfied with Dunn. Dunn just smiled when he heard this. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Jason Terry Template. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Jason Terry Template. Congratulations on coming off the bench and scoring 20 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 steal in the 2003 NCAA Finals, helping the Syracuse Oranges win their first NCAA championship in team history. You achieved NCAA championship achievement as a substitute player. Have you won an NCAA championship role player template lottery opportunity? Is it a lottery? When Dunn and Anthony stood on the podium together to celebrate the moment of winning the championship. The basketball achievement system within Duan's body is finally no longer a panel that can only view data. NCAA champion role.playing template. Dunn instinctively frowned. Role.playing, doesn't it sound like much? However, having something is better than not having it. Dunn joined Syracuse University with the intention of holding Anthony's thigh. Nowadays, he is not qualified to give up on not being the champion of FMVP. Putting the system rewards aside for now, Dunn and the entire Syracuse Orange team spent a wonderful championship moment together. Until evening, even after taking melatonin, Duan was still excited and couldn't sleep, so he had to come and draw a prize first. Congratulations on obtaining the Jason Terry template, a jet. Upon learning that it was a role.playing template, Dunn's expectations had already been lowered significantly. I didn't expect to win Terry's template in this lottery. Thanks to James, who claims to be a historical superstar of King and GOAT, Dunn still has some understanding of Terry's strength. He has extremely strong shooting ability, not only being extremely precise in three-pointers, but also being able to ignore distractions while holding the ball for three-pointers. He scored James in the NBA Finals. In addition to three-pointers, Terry also has a stable mid-range and a small throw during movement. Most fast attacks by others are either heavy dunks or chasing for 3 runs. Terry, on the other hand, is unique and often comes with a single shot to chase and hit the center shot. The scoring efficiency of a mid-range pitcher is often the lowest, but the head coach of Terry's team allowed him to do so, which also shows that his mid-range pitcher is indeed accurate. In Terry's arsenal, besides shooting, there are also breakthroughs. Faced with James, who is a frequent guest in the best defensive lineup, a historical superstar, and not particularly physically talented, Terry was able to pass James cleanly like crossing the road in the morning. Even James was intimidated and lacked the courage to pursue and defend. It can be seen from this that Terry's first step and breakthrough skills are quite good. Next, Dunn is about to participate in the NBA draft. Obtaining the Terry template undoubtedly greatly enhances Dunn's strength. Terry is also considered a person who reached the pinnacle of his career, with a rookie scoring average of 19.7 points per game in his second year. Considering that the NBA is about to abolish the hand check rule, players who are good at breaking through will be more likely to score, and Dunn is naturally confident in his future career in the NBA. However, the prerequisite for everything is to enter the NBA through the draft. After all, no team will win the draft and become the leader. As strong as Dai Ben, he is just the spiritual leader of Pistons. Da Ben helped the Pistons win the championship, but after his contract expired, he had to go to another team to get the highest paid contract, which shows his position in the management of the Pistons. After all, basketball is a scoring game, so the team leader is often the top scorer within the team. To showcase his scoring talent in the NBA, Dunn needs to rely on a large amount of ball power to feed it out. So, a suitable ranking can help Dunn adapt to the NBA game rhythm faster and produce satisfactory data. Of course, if you can go to a championship team to win a championship and further enhance your personal talent and strength, then there is no harm. Dunn has no wild ideas. Relying solely on the 20 points he scored in the NCAA final cannot give Dunn the prospect of a first-round draft. If it's just a second-round show, the chance of throwing it out is not high. Examples like Jokic are still rare. Many talented first-round draft picks are often abandoned by coaches who dislike rookies, let alone lower-ranking second-round draft picks. If Dunn can't get the attention of the head coach in the Fish Belly team and produce enough impressive data, it's better to go to the championship team to achieve the championship. In a championship team, it takes 1 or 2 years to develop, and once the strength becomes strong enough, it's not impossible to go to the fish belly team to become the scoring champion. When the rookie contract ends, other people's teams cannot go, and Anthony's team cannot go yet. Dunn has already considered moving on. As long as the data can be obtained and the team's attention can be gained, personal honors, top salary contracts, and team status will gradually emerge. Even after achieving success and fame, one may even form a super team together and win several core championships. Excited all night until the early morning of the next day, exhausted Dunn finally fell asleep in a daze. Then he began to dream of Arhat boxing. In his dream, he experienced the scene of Terry practicing basketball skills hard when he was a child, and playing games for many years during high school and college. Dunn, are you okay? The next morning, the Syracuse Orange man and his group reunited and boarded the bus heading to the airport. Looking at the lifeless and lethargic Dunn sitting next to him, Anthony thought Dunn had taken a sip. It's okay, I was too excited last night and couldn't sleep. I ate too much melatonin, and my brain hurt a bit after waking up. After a basketball game, basketball players often cannot sleep due to being too excited, but if they cannot rest well, their physical condition is difficult to recover, so melatonin is still a common medication. Dunn has experienced the negative effects of melatonin, so he uses melatonin as an excuse for sleeping Arhat fist. After obtaining the Terry template, Dunn suddenly had an extra memory in his mind that did not belong to him. Although it is not mixed with personal emotions and is simply a scene of practicing and playing, receiving so much information in the short term will also have a certain impact on Dunn's spirit. So, Dunn is more like an indulgent drug addict, very suspicious. Regarding this, Dunn can only express that I want to be quiet. After getting off the plane and taking a nap, Dunn's mental state improved slightly, but he couldn't be compared to Anthony, who enjoys happy occasions. The bus has not yet arrived at Syracuse University, but only the teachers, students, and alumni of Syracuse University spontaneously came and surrounded the intersection of the campus. Mellon, fight for another year. Mellon, let's win another championship for the Syracuse Orange man. Mellon, we can't do without you. Anthony inside the car waved to the people outside, and the people outside the car were also shouting at Anthony inside the car. Everyone wants to keep Anthony. Strive for more honors for Syracuse University. Seeing such a grand scene, Anthony, who was only 19 years old, was also somewhat at a loss. Mellon, how are you going to respond? Mellon, let's fight for another year. Mellon, we will be the best partner. The Syracuse Orange player inside the car also wants to kidnap Anthony and let him play for everyone for another year, to win another NCAA championship for everyone. Due to personal reasons, Anthony is hesitant to refuse, but he has a deep desire to immediately enter the NBA as a top pick. The most direct reason is that he is short of money. Their family is short of money, they don't have money to play in NCAA, but they can get a lot of money to enter the NBA. We are champions. We are champions. We are champions. Dunn suddenly leaned out the window and shouted excitedly. Anthony understood and immediately followed suit, shouting, "We are champions." End of this chapter. Chapter 8. White Brotherhood, Loyal Gua Gu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. White Brotherhood, Loyal Gua Gu. Coach, I hope the Dome Sports Center can continue to be open to me, and I will further improve my strength in the coming period. After arriving at Syracuse University, Dunn took the initiative to approach Bareem and pleaded. Previously, Dunn helped Anthony resolve emotional kidnapping, and Boheem was also on the bus. For personal gain, Bareem naturally harbors dissatisfaction and even jealousy towards Dunn's harmful and selfish behavior. However, Anthony's decision to leave Syracuse University and head to the NBA was already known to Boheem, so it is not unacceptable. It can only be said that Dunn's act of standing up for Anthony's brother ruined his dream. As a head coach who has always been in charge of the team and no one can shake his authority, Bergheim really doesn't like this feeling. But the past will eventually pass. Since it is irreparable, we can only focus on the present. In order to consider next season, Boeheim must consolidate the foundation of the Syracuse Oranges and strive to compete in the semi-finals again next year. In yesterday's final, Dunn also performed quite well. Although Boeheim knows that Dunn has a good grasp of three-pointers in an empty position, he is not sure if Dunn is a big heart player. After all, most NCAA guards have baskets. Moreover, the three-point line of NCAA is relatively short, and a high hit rate is also a normal phenomenon. Boeheim has many white guards who are skilled in shooting, as well as black guards with explosive physical talent, to choose from. So, there was no need to cultivate a yellow back before, making him a key player for the Syracuse Orange. However, this time is different from the past. Dunn proved in the final that he can be trusted. As an NCAA coach, Boeheim possesses some commendable qualities, which are his ability to handle people well and clear rewards and punishments. Whoever is strong and who plays well will naturally be sent to play. That's also why McNamara, who is also a first-year rookie, plays as the starting point guard for the Syracuse Oranges. The NCAA final has been played, and the rest of the season is now off. If Dunn can further enhance his strength during the off-season, Boeheim is also willing to let Dunn serve as the starting shooting guard for the Syracuse Oranges next season. And this is also the reward that Boeheim promised to give Dunn in the NCAA final before. No problem, train well, and of course, don't let your academic performance fall behind. Next is the off-season, you can relax appropriately. Of course, don't let down your efforts. I think in the future, you will also have the opportunity to follow in Mellon's footsteps and enter the NBA. Since Dunn took the initiative to lower his profile and sincerely expressed loyalty to him as the head coach. Boeheim also stated that adults have a large number of options and choose to mercifully let go of Dunn, a young disciple who was overwhelmed by loyalty but suddenly awakened and could correct his mistakes. When Dunn turned around and left the office, Boeheim also became complacent and imaginative. As Jerry, Dunn, Hakeem and others grow, as long as I can recruit small forwards with strong independent attacking ability during the off-season, I can replicate the success of this season and once again gain the strength to compete in the semi-finals. Well, let's take a break for now. I've been playing for the Orange Man in Syracuse for so many years, and it's time for me to enjoy it. Michael, do you have time to play golf in Augusta? By the way, call Smith along with me. Dunn, the coach didn't make it difficult for you, did he? Anthony learned that Dunn had returned from the coach's office and immediately asked about Dunn's situation. Dunn smiled and shook his head. I took the initiative to find a coach. I plan to continue practicing at the Dome Stadium and improve my skills in the coming period. Are you planning to play for another year? So why? Why don't you advise me to stay? Anthony was somewhat surprised upon hearing this, and halfway through, he seemed to be a bit excited. This is not a place to talk, come with me. Dunn left with Anthony, looking for an empty corner. However, Anthony was originally a prominent figure at Syracuse University, and now he has helped Syracuse Orange Man win the first NCAA championship in over 100 years since its establishment. So, no matter where Dunn and Anthony went, they all encountered national treasure-level treatment. In the end, it was Dunn who brought Anthony back to the apartment where he lived, and it was only then that peace returned to his ears. What I'm going to say to you next, please keep it a secret, said Dunn solemnly. Definitely, my mouth is very strict, Anthony nodded obediently. Dunn finally revealed the truth to Anthony. I'm preparing to participate in the NBA draft early. That's right, we're brothers with you. I think you need my help, and I also need your help. I am well aware that with my current strength, it is difficult for me to be selected by an NBA team. So, I need to improve myself as much as possible in the coming period. That's also why I would proactively seek the coach's help and ask him to help me open the back door. If I immediately indicate that I want to participate in the draft early, then I will immediately leave Syracuse University and not even find a place to play. I need professional training equipment and personnel to help me improve my skills. Staying at Syracuse University is currently my best choice. The things here are the cheapest and most reliable for me. You're so smart. Anthony's eyes lit up when he heard Dunn say this, and his mouth lit up. For Anthony, who has a future worth of billions but still needs to personally bring coupons to the supermarket to buy goods, if he has the opportunity to go for free, he will naturally find ways to go for free. The vast majority of exercise equipment in the Syracuse University Gymnasium is open to students of our school for free. Although a small portion of equipment costs money, there are also certain discounts, which are relatively cheaper. In addition, there are free courses and some paid courses available for elective courses. If you are willing to spend money, it is not impossible to seek 1.on.1 guidance and training from professionals, and tailor training dietary packages. Anthony is not worried about his own financial path, but he has not yet entered the NBA through the draft. So, with the attitude of being able to save, Anthony also copied Dunn's plan and worked hard with his good brother Dunn to train with the resources of Syracuse University. When this situation arose, Dunn really wanted to say to Anthony, "Don't come over." However, there's no way, Dunn can't find any excuse to refuse Anthony. In fact, the threshold for participating in the NBA draft is not high. As long as you graduate from high school, you can submit the corresponding application form to the NBA draft office 60 days before the start of the draft. This year's draft will be held on June 26, which means the registration deadline is April 27. Originally in the Dunn plan, the news of early participation in the draft was announced on April 26, and an application for registration was submitted to the NBA. That is to say, Dunn will have a full 18 days in the future to freely exploit the resources of Syracuse University and quickly digest the Terry template. After obtaining the Terry template, Dunn only learned it with his brain, but his body has not yet adapted. Shooting is mainly about muscle memory, while Dunn's shooting style is single-action shooting, Terry's is double-action shooting. In addition, Terry's expertise in mid-range shooting and breakthrough skills also require Dunn to further transform himself. Dunn was originally going to quietly do a big job at Syracuse University and then amaze everyone. But due to Anthony's drag, Dunn's plan was exposed ahead of schedule. Anthony was originally the proud son of heaven and received attention from the United States. In addition, recently leading the Syracuse Orange Man to win the first NCAA championship trophy in school history, the momentum is unparalleled. In theory, Anthony should have announced early participation in the draft. But the fact is not so. Anthony seems to have signs of staying on campus. Anthony has been spending all day with another player from the Syracuse Oranges, who is also a Chinese player from the same country as last year's NBA top pick Yao Ming. Dunn, soaking in the Dome Arena. The external media expressed curiosity about Anthony's delayed announcement of participating in the draft and instead staying at Syracuse University to train hard. Boeheim and the sports director of Syracuse University also want to know the real reason why Anthony is currently staying on campus. They are all smart people, and almost a week has passed. Even if they can't find the answer, they can guess. Rumors are flying everywhere outside, and the campus is also full of twists and turns, with a surging undercurrent. Boeheim is not good at dealing with Anthony, he can only hold on to Dunn, who is spending time with him day and night. Boeheim first insinuated Anthony's thoughts from Dunn's side, and then stopped Dunn's basketball team season card on the grounds of concern for his studies. Dunn also has a student card, which can be swiped to enter public places such as gyms and swimming pools. But without a season card, I can't go to the basketball court, and I can't train for NBA-level three-pointers. Dunn, who was at a loss and had no choice but to confront Anthony. Anthony learned that he had implicated Dunn, and he was also very loyal. He expressed his willingness to hold a press conference with Dunn and announce their registration for the NBA draft together. Even, Anthony was willing to help Dunn connect and introduce his agent Bill Duffy to him. In other words, NCAA has explicit regulations that NCAA players cannot have private contact with their agents, let alone sign formal contracts with them, as they have vested interests. However, as early as high school, Bill Duffy took the initiative to contact Anthony and negotiated cooperation terms with Anthony and his family. For Anthony, who is already a well-known American prodigy and has just won the NCAA championship, Bill Duffy naturally values him very much. After receiving Anthony's call, Bill Duffy was also very straightforward and expressed his willingness to serve as Dunn's agent, helping Dunn run the draft and striving to let Dunn also enter the NBA. The name of Bill Duffy has long been heard by Dunn, Yao Ming's agent. Although it doesn't seem to be very helpful for Yao Ming's career, he hasn't tricked him and can be considered a mediocre agent. Besides, Dunn is not qualified to contact other agents of Awesome. Since there is no choice, then the current option is naturally the best outcome. NBA, I'm here. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Battle for the First Prize, Hometown Basketball. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Battle for the First Prize, Hometown Basketball. On the morning of April 17, Dunn and Anthony had already completed the dropout procedures the day before. Boheme was also very surprised to learn that Dunn had decided to drop out of school and prepare to participate in the draft. After a heartfelt conversation, it was still not possible to retain Dunn, and in the end, he could only happily agree to let go. Without the constraints of Syracuse University, Dunn would be like a fish leaping over the vast sea and a bird flying over the high sky. Next, Dunn and Anthony will board the bus to New York together. At that time, a press conference will be held at the Edison Hotel in Times Square, New York, publicly announcing early participation in the NBA draft. Of course, Dunn was just a passing remark. The key to this trip is that Bill Duffy is preparing to send Anthony to ABC headquarters in Times Square, New York, to participate in the upcoming interview program and build momentum for Anthony's competition for the top pick. Just last night, the NBA 2.03 regular season came to a complete end. The Denver Nuggets and Cleveland Cavaliers are tied for the bottom spot, with both teams having a 22.5% chance of winning the top pick. Bill Duffy has been deeply involved in the NBA for many years and knows that the top pick can be manipulated. At present, another top scorer is very popular. LeBron James' hometown Akron, which is very close to Cleveland in terms of geographical location. Coincidentally, it was yesterday again that Michael Jordan, who had played his last NBA regular season game, announced his retirement. That is to say, Jordan, the savior of NBA ratings and the founder of NBA globalization, completely announced his departure from the NBA's game stage. In this situation, NBA President David Stern, who was in a hurry to seek medical treatment, sought to create the next Jordan successor for the NBA. I can't say for sure, it's going to be a Cleveland son playing hometown basketball gimmick on James. However, neither Anthony nor Bill Duffy wants the title of the top pick to be taken away by others. In order to shift the attention of the United States back from James to Anthony, Bill Duffy used a lot of contacts and resources to arrange this interview program for Anthony. As Anthony's good brother, Dunn was also in the car, offering advice to Anthony. Mellon, in fact, you can choose to take a step back and become the focus of attention at the upcoming draft. I think you are far behind James in the competition for the top spot. So, you should take a different approach and overtake on curves. Regarding Dunn's statement, Anthony expressed disbelief. Brother, do you think I will lose to LeBron? No, you are definitely stronger than James now. But if the Cleveland Cavaliers get the number 1 pick, I can guarantee it. They will definitely use the number 1 pick to choose James, not you. Dunn told Anthony to be honest, but when Anthony heard these words, he felt very harsh and couldn't listen at all. Dunn remained silent when he saw Antonimo, so he had to continue his stand-up comedy. Business is business, and the NBA is essentially just a runway show. The fundamental purpose of the team's draft is still for long-term future profits. James is the chosen son of Ohio, and as long as the Cleveland Cavaliers can get James, there is no reason not to choose him. Because as long as he plays at the Gund Arena, not only Clevelanders, but almost all Ohio basketball fans will buy tickets to play in order to see James. Do you understand now? You were born in Brooklyn, New York, and even though you moved out of New York when you were a child, you are still a genuine New Yorker. As an adult, you chose to work for Syracuse University in New York State in order to return to New York. You have always wanted to play for your hometown and want to play hometown basketball. The New York Knicks know your thoughts and should be willing to welcome you home. If the New York Knicks win the number 1 pick, even if your strength is not as good as James, you will definitely be the number 1 pick of this year. Moreover, you are stronger than James, you are an NCAA champion, and you are more mature than James. In other words, if you want to become the top scorer, relying solely on your own strength is not enough. The key factor in determining whether you become the top scorer is not yourself, but who has obtained the top scorer visa. It's no use trying to prove your strength. If you want to become the number 1 pick, you can only expect the New York Knicks to get the number 1 pick. The next thing we need to do is to take various measures to help the New York Knicks win the first place pick. You should know that the NBA headquarters is located in New York, and the current NBA president David Stern is also a native New Yorker. Anthony had always known that Dunn was very smart, but he never expected Dunn to be so smart. Now that Dunn speaks so thoroughly, if Anthony doesn't understand, it's not a melon, but a fool. What you said makes perfect sense. What should we do? Anthony decided to hug Dunn's thigh and earnestly asked him for advice. I'm not sure if it's possible, but I can only try to use your own voice in the upcoming interview to tell the host the following content. It was exactly 30 years since the last time the New York Knicks won the championship, and I hadn't been born yet. In my childhood memories, I can only learn about the glorious years of the Knicks winning championships from family conversations. When I was a child, like other kids, I always hoped for miracles to happen. Even though I moved out of New York, I still look forward to the Knicks on TV winning the championship. However, the news obtained will always be the failure of the Knicks. In the past decade, Patrick Ewing led the Knicks to the NBA Finals twice. He is the pride of New Yorkers and also synonymous with failure. I am a natural winner and have always disliked failure since I was young. I once swore privately that if there was a chance to become a part of the Knicks, I would definitely win everything for them. Now that I have just won the first NCAA championship in school history for the Syracuse Oranges, I am confident in bringing the championship to the NBA and the Knicks. Actually, I don't care if I can become the top pick, what I really desire is to play for the Knicks and win the championship trophy for them again. As a New Yorker, it is our duty to rebuild the glory of the Knicks. Dunn, who had copied the text for a while, was about to take out his military certificate when Anthony, who was still unsatisfied, heard Dunn finish and jumped out of the car in excitement. It doesn't matter if you hit your head. After Anthony felt the pain, he hugged Dunn and laughed, "Fake. Brother. How does your brain grow? Are you too talented? If it weren't for your skin, I would have thought you grew up with me. You actually told me what I had been holding in my heart for over a decade. That's right, I'm the son of New York. I want to recast the glory of the Knicks and win championships for all New Yorkers. There should be paper and pen in the car, right? Dunn, could you please help me write it down? I need to memorize the entire text, please." Anthony is not only not foolish, but also very intelligent. He immediately understood the benefits of playing hometown basketball. If he could play in New York, his future income would definitely be higher than playing in other teams. In addition, in terms of increasing fame, the New York Knicks also have significant advantages. Moreover, Dunn had already stated in advance that in order to win the top pick, he could only expect David Stern to secretly arrange for the top pick to be signed by the Knicks. As a native New Yorker, who wouldn't want to see the Knicks win the championship again in their lifetime? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Stern Script, Anthony Training Camp. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Stern Script, Anthony Training Camp. It is our duty to recast the glory of the Knicks. Watching the replay on the TV, with New York media outlets spontaneously advocating for Anthony to become the top scorer, Stern's heart was very conflicted. For the future of the NBA and to ensure its commercial value, Stern has long represented the NBA and had close ties with the FBI. Every year, the NBA sends a large number of American dollars to the FBI, and the FBI also has many off-duty or retired police officers who help the NBA and investigate the situation of every player. Simply put, the player openly strolled around the nightclub and played a few pairs of poker afterwards. Stern knew exactly what color his underwear was wearing. Stern had already sent someone to investigate the background of someone as famous as Anthony, a celestial prodigy. Unfortunately, it is the type of player that Stern is very wary of and vigilant against. Under the influence of Jordan and the Dream Team, the NBA has become synonymous with the world's #1 professional basketball league, with great prestige and high level. Both NBA team owners and NBA players have benefited from this, and the team's market value and players' salaries have skyrocketed year by year. So, in order to ensure the commercial value of the NBA, it must not be influenced by black culture and revert back to the style of gangster basketball, drug basketball, and gangster basketball in the 1970s and 1980s. Stern has always created images of healthy basketball, elite basketball, and passionate basketball for the NBA. So, the Bad Kids Legion withdrew from the historical stage early on, and the newly born supergiant Iverson was suppressed by the alliance. Black thugs like Anthony, who have a gangster background, have already been blacklisted by Stern even though they haven't entered the NBA yet. However, as a New Yorker, it is indeed impossible to refuse New York's son joining the Knicks, leading the league's top powerhouse to make a comeback and regain the championship. This is an excellent script. At the same time, it can also boost the basketball market in New York and promote the vigorous development of the basketball market in the United States. Although Stern is actively promoting the globalization of the NBA, why would Stern choose the path of globalization if it weren't for the NBA being at the bottom of the 4 major leagues and having difficulty seeing opportunities to rise in the short term? New York is the economic center of the United States, and the rise of the Knicks will undoubtedly inject a boost into the local commercial value of the NBA. And Anthony's becoming the top pick for the Knicks has another advantage. That is to help the NBA draw a lot of blood from the NCAA, which has higher commercial value. Stern is preparing to ban high school draft picks in order to facilitate NBA blood sucking from NCAA. The NCAA's prodigy who leaves college to enter the NBA will naturally bring huge traffic to the NBA. So, whether out of hometown sentiment or from a profit perspective, arranging the top pick for the Knicks is undoubtedly a good choice. However, Stern's original dream of becoming the top scorer was someone else. This person is the son of Ohio, LeBron James. 2 years before Jordan announced his comeback, Stern had consciously arranged for him to be replaced. After all, even if Jordan plays well in his old age, he won't be able to play for many years. In fact, since Jordan announced his first retirement, Stern has been suffering from Jordan's fear of inadequacy. That's also why there have been so many successors for Jordan in these years. However, most of the successors have disappeared from the crowd due to various reasons, such as not being able to play or being affected by injuries and illnesses. Time and time again, disappointment made Stern like a gambler on a dead end, pinning all his hopes on James. Stern is very optimistic about James, as he meets all the conditions to become a historical superstar. Especially James, who comes from a rugby background, has a strong physique and will not easily suffer from injuries like Jordan's successors in the past. Over the past 2 years, Stern has placed more emotions in James, just like his own child. Whenever someone mentions James in front of him and thinks highly of him, Stern can't help but curl his lips. His palms and backs are all flesh, and now he's really reluctant to change his course. So, who will be the top pick in the upcoming draft? New York, Cameron Anthony Training Camp. This is a private basketball court located in a townhouse. Although the basketball court is temporarily named after Cameron Anthony, there is actually no presence of Anthony among the people training and playing on site. As Anthony's friend and also a member of the training camp, Dunn is probably able to guess something based on known information. At this time, Anthony was either participating in a TV program or on his way to the TV station. Of course, it is also possible to discuss some business endorsements. After all, the biggest competitor of the top pick, James, has been rumored to have been fiercely contested by Nike, Adidas, and Reebok. Although Anthony has also received quotes from Nike, Adidas, Converse, and AJ, the contract is much smaller than that of James. Anthony, who is unwilling to be outdone, naturally hopes to win a bigger contract, not only to suppress James, but also to ensure that his family can live a good life. In short, for the future, Anthony is very busy at this moment. Also leveraging the NCAA championship and the popularity of the NBA number 1 pick, Anthony had already advanced to the role of a top pick and NBA star. And players like Dunn, who have also signed under Bill Duffy and are about to participate in the draft, but have little fame and commercial value, are relatively idle. The significance of staying in Anthony's training camp now is not only to strive to improve one's own strength, but also to wait for Anthony to return. At that time, media from New York and even across the United States will come to hear the news. During their training with Anthony, they were able to gain some popularity, expand their visibility, and increase their chances of being selected by NBA teams. It can only be said that the quality of Bill Duffy's rookies this year is not high. Unlike last year's first-round draft, which included top 5 and second-place pick, this year Bill Duffy only has Anthony as his ace. However, as a well-known NBA agent, Bill Duffy's business cannot be solely supported by top players like Anthony. Fully casting nets and focusing on fishing are what they, as agents, should do. Just like in today's Anthony training camp, there is a well-known 5-star high school student named Travis Othello. Ultralo's talent is quite good. In Dunn's opinion, he has Durant's physique, Wiggins' bouncing, and James' shooting. However, the ball quotient is too low, the playing style is too unique, I don't know how to pick and roll, and I have limited game experience. In previous years, relying solely on physical talent, one would have the opportunity to enter a small greenhouse. But this year is a draft year, whether one can be selected by an NBA team in the first round depends on whether they have this fate. Except for Othello, the other dozen or so players in the training camp are either at the second round or at the level of being eliminated. In just half a month, Dunn believed he had already digested most of the Terry template. In the training camp, when fighting alone with others, there is basically not much loss to be suffered, and there is a 60.7% chance of winning against anyone. The only thing that's a bit difficult to deal with is the two CBAs. They are Polish center Marcy Lampy and power forward Mario Austin, who graduated from Mississippi State University. The height advantage of American singles is too great. Rooney and Durant often have a close match in singles. Lampy and Austin are both more than half a head taller than Dunn, and have good resistance and projection abilities. Due to his short stature and short hands, Dunn was unable to fully utilize his strength and projection advantages, making it a bit difficult to deal with these two tall men. In the end, Dunn, who was brave after being ashamed, did not choose to join if he couldn't win. On the contrary, it is to sharpen one's own small and big skills, and adapt to the NBA's penalty area defense intensity in advance. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was mid-May when the annual Chicago Joint Trial was about to be held at the Chicago Explore Multifunctional Sports Center. End of this chapter.